Well, it's the final day of the 23rd World Economic Forum on Africa. The conference seeks to provide a strategic platform for regional and global leaders to engage on ways to improve the continent's competitiveness and to foster economic growth. Now, Chris Bishop caught up with Kennedy Mungani, who is CEO of Barclays Africa, for more.
The conversation is maturing to understanding the nuance of the complexity and yet the attractiveness of this market.
And a massive market at that, $1 trillion in spending power, 900 million consumers.
Most definitely. The fundamentals have improved over the last 2 decades. Inflation in the 90s on average was at around 22%. In the 2000s, 8%. Debt of governments, over 82% of GDP, down to 59%. I can go on and on. This speaks to the both consumer, mining and mineral resource, but more significantly, infrastructure and services opportunities that are in Africa today.
When it comes to expansion in Africa, you have been criticized in the past for lagging behind your competitors in expanding into the continent. What do you say here in 2013?
Barclays is clear that Africa represents one of our key growth markets going forward, and to take advantage of this, we are cleaning up our house, we are reorganizing ourselves. We are now at the tail end of a massive transaction that combines Barclays Africa operations in 8 countries in the continent with the Absa Bank operations in 3 countries in the continent, including South Africa. This massive transaction, which will position one legal entity, Barclays Africa Group Limited, as the go-to bank for all of our interests in the continent, will put us in a position where we can support our organic and inorganic aspirations in here.
And when will that happen? When will the renaming happen?
Over the next few weeks, months, as we get all our regulatory approvals, we'll be in a position to reposition ourselves as the big Barclays Africa Group for the continent.
And talking about expansion in Africa, I know you've been involved in some very sticky negotiations in Zimbabwe over the ownership of foreign companies, like the mines have had to cede 51%. What's the latest with the banks?
Well, the latest with the banks is that as part of the Banking Association in Zimbabwe, we've made our indigenization plans clear. We submitted them in 2010 and are waiting formal responses from the authorities on exactly how we could be recognized for the very difficult and complex structure and banking that we are. We are also in negotiations around putting in minimum capital ratios in Zimbabwe. This is very different to mining and other sectors, and that is why banking industry has got to be treated very differently as well.
And where's the next step now in Zimbabwe?
We are waiting formal responses from our regulator and then the authorities on how this contradiction, if you like, with respect to a requirement for injecting new capital and also apply for indigenization is going to take place. We are committed to subscribing to the laws of the country, but in a commercial and rational way.
And finally, very briefly, which countries are you looking at in Africa for further expansions?
Well, the first priority for us is to bed down this massive transaction. It is over 12 regulators, 12 banks that we're trying to put together. When that is done and bedded down, then we can look at building into our non-presence countries. We've got clear gaps in our portfolio at the moment with rep offices in Nigeria, with building our business in Egypt. Those would be the kind of priorities we'd be looking at post bedding down this transaction.